Hey guys, today we're talking about bystials. So, bystials are still missing cards, I believe. I think it's just they're missing their synchro. Aside from that, I don't know exactly what they're missing, but pretty sure they're missing stuff at the very least. Well, anyways, the Bystial Lubellion must be special summoned from your hand or graveyard by attributing one level 6 or higher Dark Dragon monster. You can only special summon the Bystial Lubellion once per turn this way, and this is, of course, an inherent summon. And because of this condition, it can be searched off of Chaos Space. So for Dark and Light decks, you would probably already be playing Dark and Lights for your Bystials anyways. But now you have a target being Lubellion with the Chaos Base, and Chaos Base just gives you a decent amount of advantage and like a draw. And Regained will give you constant draws as long as it remains on the field as well. And it will also summon back your Bystials, which can lead to a good amount of card advantage that it can be somewhat hard to deal with. But anyways. The Bystial Lubellion, of course, has an effect where you can send this card from your hand to the graveyard, not discard. So it cannot be used under like a Macrocosmos, Dimension Fissure or whatever. And when you do so, you can add a Bystial monster from your deck to your hand, except for the Bystial Lubellion. During your main phase, you can place a branded continuous spell trap from your deck face up on your field. You can only use each effect of the Bystial Lubellion once per turn. So this specifically only places branded continuous spell traps from your deck face up. So that means if you have a branded spell trap in your hand or in your graveyard, you can't reset it with this. But with Branded Beast has the effect that says during the end phase, you can target one branded continuous spell or trap in your graveyard, place it face up on your field. You can only use this effect of Branded Beast once per turn. And this has moderate synergy with Bystial Serenir, which has the effect to either send a Bystial monster or one branded spell trap from your deck to the graveyard, except Bystial Serenir. And this is when the Bystial Serenir is sent to the graveyard. Doesn't matter if it's by cost or effect, it's sent to the graveyard. You can send a Bystial or a branded spell trap. This one is not continuous, so of course it synergizes with like the branded stuff more. But it works, it gets the job done. Bystial Albalos cannot be normal summoned set, must be special summoned from your hand or graveyard by attributing two Bystial monsters. While this card summoned this way is in the monster zone, negate the effects of all face-up ritual, fusion, synchro, XYZ, and link monsters on the field. So both sides, if this face-up card in its owner's control leaves the field because of an opponent's card effect, you can banish all face-down cards in the extra deck face-up until your opponent's end phase. So there's probably some goofy way to use this. I'm not really sure, but the most notable effect is probably going to be the while this card summoned this way is in the monster zone, negate the effects of all face-up ritual, fusion, synchro, XYZ, and link monsters on the field. I think that effect is probably the most important one. The other one might be used for something funky, but I don't think it's super relevant either. But anyways, this effect here is essentially a skill drain for the extra deck. So considering how like disgusting the floodgates we have in Yu-Gi-Oh, like just how disgusting they are, this is not like that strong because you can still activate like the effects of your main deck monsters. And that makes it a little bit worse than certain other things. And the summon condition actually is a little hard to meet. So you need Bystial Albalos somehow in rotation, either in graveyard or in your hand, I guess. Hand, graveyard, whichever one. And then you need 2 Bystials on the field to tribute to summon this. And it has no protection, of course. It can be targeted, it can be destroyed, unlike a certain Labyrinth card for some reason. This one can't be special summoned for free either. This needs 2 tributes. The other one just cast special summons itself from hand willy-nilly. But anyways. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention this doesn't give you card advantage. But anyways. Back on topic here. What we have with the Bystial stuff is that they can act as essentially hand traps as well, which is basically where they're the best. Well, the best situation for them is when they're being used as hand traps right now, as of currently. And the reason being, they're like a DD Crow on steroids. So, let's just go with Bystial Magnemut for now, alright? So if my opponent is playing a light or dark deck specifically, they have to be playing dark or light, I guess. And they have a dark or light in the graveyard they need to resolve for whatever reason, either as an ignition or a trigger, doesn't entirely matter. I can then Bystial Magnemut, banish it. And this banish is very strong, I guess would be the word I'm looking at. The reason being, you cannot called by Bystial Magnemut. You can, however, like go spell Bystial Magnemut, but if you do that, I still have the Bystial Magnemut, right? So I can still do it again during the next turn, and the Bystial doesn't go away because, like, for example, with Ash Blossom and Joy Spring, I wouldn't be just like revealing Ash Blossom and Joy Spring and then like you activate like I don't know what the equivalent is. I guess Crossout Designator, and then I just keep that Ash Blossom for like my next turn for like a maxi or something, or like for one of your traps that special summons from like deck, something like that. I could use my Ash for that, or I can use it again on turn 3 on you again. So that's kind of what Bystials can do. But of course, if the Bystial resolves, like Magnemut here, for example, is one of the strongest ones, or stronger ones for certain reasons, I guess. So, let's say I banish, I don't know, whatever's fine. Let's say, I don't know, a tier name, like I banish Merly or something, special summon Magnemut, then I can, in the end phase, add another Bystial. Let's say we go with Druis Worm. So this can banish another one of my opponent's cards. And then, after that, I have 2 bodies. I have Magnemut and Druis Worm for, like, the cost of 1 in-hand card, which I guess would be Magnemut. And then let's say I special summon Druis Worm, I can make like a Beatrice, or I can just use them as big bodies because they're 2.5k attack, which isn't like the biggest monster, but it's not like inconsequential. Because most main deck monsters only have up to 2k-ish attack points or defense points at most, and this is more than that. So I can actually just go battle and clear some stuff before I even commit. Just for example though, Baron de Fleur is 2.4k defense, so if my opponent was trying to play around like a Lightning Storm, I can simply attack over Baron de Fleur before attempting my play, whatever it is. And that is pretty strong as well. So, not bad at all. What's notable about Magma is that it can add any dragon monster from your deck or graveyard to your hand. So, that could be Fallen of Albaz, that could be Blue Eyes White Dragon, any dragon monster which is interesting. So this effect is not really useful if it's in your hand going first, of course, but whatever. Well, actually, no, it's still a little useful because you can still add a Bystial, but you can't really add like an extender or whatever. Like, I don't know, maybe you want like a Dragunity Remus or whatever to add Dragon Ravine. I believe that was the correct one. Whatever. This trap, however, doesn't seem that good. It's too gimmicky. In my opinion, once per turn when your opponent activates a card or effect that targets a Bystial monster you control and no other cards, or when your opponent activates a card or effect in response to the activation of your Bystial monster effect, you can target one light or dark monster in either graveyard, bash it, and if you do, negate that activated effect. This is kind of a weird form of protection. It's really not that great. But I guess if it's face down, it could get you once. Like, I don't know, let's say I special summon Magnuma chain 1 to search, and then like Ash Blossom, Joyous Spring chain 2, then chain 3, Branded Be Fallen, and then Branded Be Fallen banishes like a card in either graveyard, and then the Ash Blossom, Joyous Spring, I guess? Like what? Or is it like supposed to be used with Regained? So like, for example, Branded Regained is chain 2? No wait, that doesn't even work if it's your opponent's turn. Yeah, because trigger order, if you normal summon like Moyi, it should be Moyi chain 1, Regain chain 2. So that wouldn't be in response. Yeah, I don't really get that card. But the only downside, I guess, of playing Bystials that's really noteworthy is if your opponent's not playing a deck that relies on their cards needing to resolve in the graveyard in a certain way, like, for example, Phantom Knights. Instead of Phantom Knights, there's, like, Exorcister, which is technically a light archetype, I believe. They're not super affected by Bystials, and in fact, it can be kind of negative to summon Bystials somewhat. Kind of depends, I guess. And then, of course, there is the issue of your opponent simply does not play light or dark cards at all. So that can be kind of bland, I guess. Then you don't really have that much to do with your Bystials. So that's a thing, I guess. But overall, it's not like that weak per se, but a lot of the decks that are played typically will be light or dark, because light or dark, it's simply the strongest like attributes. So let's real quick just go UR here. Like, Dark World is of course dark. Labyrinth doesn't really count, but it is indeed dark. And then we have Blue Eyes, that's light. Mech Knight is light. Blackwing is dark. Then we have, let's see, Utopia is light as well. Telements is dark. And then we have Sprite, which is dark and fire. Elblick, light. And there are numerous more strategies that rely on lighter darks in the graveyard. Like, Branded is actually a dark archetype, I believe. And then we have DDD, which is primarily dark as well. And yeah, the list goes on. So it's just even if your opponent isn't playing light or dark, it just kind of sucks going second that these are kind of your like hand traps, I guess. Like when you could have been playing like an effect failure or something instead, and that would have seen more mileage. But like, just in general, of course, the Bystials are fairly strong when the conditions are right. Otherwise, they kind of serve as like extenders and bodies to maybe attempt to break the board, or like just well, they kind of just exist in that case. It kind of depends on game state, but they're not completely dead. Like, some cards you run can just be completely dead. Like, Troll and Lockbird can be more dead than, like, a Bystial in hand. Simply because your opponent only ever adds one card or draws one card for the whole turn, and then they just foolish, like, 17 cards, and that's the kind of deck you're playing against. Troll and Lockbird not popping off that game, but of course, on the other side of things, there are decks that need to search like 15 billion times, like Pendulum Magician or Flaundries, where Drone Lockbird will pop off like insanely hard, completely stopping your opponent from play. So, pistols are good right now, but they won't necessarily like always be good, and it will kind of depend on what's being played and what your opponent is playing, of course. Like if your opponent's just playing hard, just stun, having back row removal is clearly the only option, the only way to win that duel. In which case, Bystials are pretty damn useless, honestly. Except for Druisworm. Druisworm might actually be able to like out-Inspector Border with Moonmirror Shield for you. Potentially. But actually, now that I think about it, you can't activate Bystial effects if your opponent has Inspector Border. So, no, that doesn't really work. But, yeah, that's all I've got for you guys today. I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.